on substantial similarity. We had written the intrinsic test. Now we write the second point in that test. So after you wrote the last line, write after that, like give a paragraph break and write. But if what is copied, but if what is copied does not seem to be the essence, but if what is copied does not seem to be the essence, then
Ma'am, can you please repeat what you just said? Is it in the same point?
yeah, it's a paragraph break basically. It's not really the same point, but it's before the second point. So you write, but if what is
Okay.
copied, but if what is copied does not seem to be the essence, then the judge moves to the second test.
Then the judge moved to the
Second test. And write down the second test now. Extrinsic test. I'll write the spelling in the chat box. Extrinsic test. In this stage, in this stage, a technical expert, a technical expert is called, a technical expert is called to identify the extent of similarity. To identify the extent of similarity. So basically, we first see from the eye of a reasonable, prudent man if we're able to judge or determine whether one work is the copy of another, we stop there. However, if we are not sure or if you're not able to gather where the essence of the work has been copied by another work, then we need technical assistance. So we go on to the second stage where we call a technical expert, and he then ascertains whether one work is the copy of another. So this particular two tests were laid down in the Einstein and the Sid and Marty Croft cases. Now, before we began with the meaning of copying, somebody is unmuted by mistake. Please mute yourself. Creates a little disturbance. So, before we started writing about what copying means, we were writing about originality. Who's unmuted? Akshita, could you please mute yourself? So before writing about copying, we were talking about originality. So if you flip one or two pages before, you can see that I had made you guys write the meaning of originality, which says the work has originated from the author himself and is not copied from another. Now, now you continue writing two, three things under originality. So you can just like write originality continued or something and write under that originality with respect to skill, All
Ma'am,
right.
can you please repeat the sentence?
Yeah, I'll repeat. Originality here. Originality here refers to refers to originality with respect to skill. Originality with respect to skill or labor or labor in execution of the work in execution of the work and and not the originality of thought and not the originality of thought. It is rather it is rather the expression of that thought. So the originality must not be in thought. The idea or the thought could be something common or drawn from the common knowledge of the society or the community or the artists, but the expression must be original. Next point, works like works like
Ma'am, under extrinsic only.
no, we've started writing about originality, right? I just explained that the test is over and we have gone back to originality, which we began. This is not a part of the extrinsic test. After the extrinsic test, I asked you guys to go back to originality, where we wrote the work was originated from the author and not copied. So we started explaining what copied means. So now we are done with the meaning of copied, and now we have come back to originality.
Ma'am will continue in the second point of originality, right?
No, right on the third point now.
Okay.
Works like translations. Okay, so for example, don't write this. For example, I have written a book in English, and there is an author who wants to translate my book into Bengali. Now, since I am not the one translating it into Bengali, since I don't know Bengali, but I still would like my work to be translated because it will market my work also along with the translation. Now, the Bengali author, if he translates my work, of course with my consent and permission, otherwise it will be a copyright infringement. So if he takes my consent and translates the work, my work, then he will have copyright over that book. I will not have copyright over the translation because he will be then putting his effort, time, skill in translating the work. And translations are valid copyrightable works. So it's not like since I've not put any creativity, then I will not be like given copyright, because translating also requires creativity, because you can't translate a book or a line word by word. You have to retain the context of the story. You have to retain the essence of the story. So translation is never word to word. It is always, you are just basically trying to express the same context and the same story in just a different language. So translation also requires a lot of creativity. So the translated work, if translated with my consent, it will be copyrighted by the author who wrote the translation. Similarly,
Originality will
yeah,
be the English, the person who actually wrote the book, like the English author, right?
The English author will have copyright over the English version. So if
Originality of that book.
sorry,
Ma'am, who will be having the originality of that book? The like author.
see, I wrote the book, the first original book I wrote in English. I have copyright over that particular English book. If somebody wants to translate it into Bengali, they take my permission and they can translate it, and then they will have copyright over the translated version. But in such cases, acknowledgement and credits will always be given to me in the beginning of the book, that this book is a translation of this so and so book written by so and so author. So you give credits and acknowledgement, but that Bengali writer will have copyright because translations are valid copyrightable works. So translations are not considered to be derivative works. A translation will be an original work. So that Bengali translation is an original work of that Bengali author. It is not a derivative work. So don't confuse it with derivative works. Similarly, like somebody asked in the last class also, like if I'm taking inspiration from 2, 3 articles and I'm writing one article, so that will also be an original work. See, if I'm copying three articles para by para, word by word, and just compiling them, like I've not put any creativity or extra effort, so that will not be an original work. That will be a derivative work, and if I've not taken their permission, I will be infringing their copyright. However, if I'm just taking inspiration from the works, that means I'm taking inspiration from the idea or thought or concept they have used. I'm not copying their expression of thought. So I will be making an original work even if I'm taking inspiration from all works, or if I'm compiling all works. So for example, I've been given a task by my boss that I have to compile um, five reports, okay, and I have to make a synopsis of the reports. So I don't have to copy the report word by word. I have to put my own mind and intellect, and I have to prepare a synopsis. Now that synopsis will not have word to word copying from the articles. So since I'm putting my time and effort and creativity into shortening down five reports into one single report, then I'm putting my hard work and intellect into it. That will become my original work. So I will have copyright over the work, even if it's the compilation of other works or I have taken inspiration of other works. So translations, synopsis, compilations, they are all copyrighted. So whoever is compiling has copyright, whoever is making the synopsis will have copyright, because they are considered to be original, because they are just not copied. So when you have to test originality, you just see whether the work is directly copied. If somebody is putting their intellect or mind and they're not directly copying, they are just taking inspiration, that will be covered under originality and they will be given copyright. So is this clear? Who is asking?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So the point we were writing. Yeah.
Excuse
Tell
me,
me.
ma'am. Ma'am, the day before yesterday, you said about the author of the work and owner of the work, both are different.
Yeah. But
Here,
they
can we
can be
say here?
different. They can be the same person also. See, by default, they are the same person. However, if the owner decides to transfer copyright by way of assignment or by selling copyright, then only the author and owner become different people. By default, they're the same people, same person.
Yes, ma'am. Here, can we say the English author as owner and the translated person
No,
as
no, no, no,
author?
no, 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 no. See, when I'm talking about the author and owner being different people, I'm talking about one single work. So there is one work and the author. So that example of sculpture wherein moral rights were infringed, where the sculpture was kept in Vidhan Sabha and it was destroyed and all. So there was one work in question, that sculpture. The owner was the government and the author was the person, the artist. Now here in a translations, we are talking about two works. One is the English work and one is the Bengali work. So there are two works and two authors and two owners. So the English author and owner is the English writer, and the Bengali works author and owner is the Bengali writer. Unless they decide to transfer their ownership, they will by default be the authors and owners of the respective works. So when there are two works, the author and owner are also different and separate. Did you get it?
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah, tell me.
ma'am, you told there are economical benefits and moral benefits difference between the author and the owner.
Yeah.
Like so the author remains with the like the moral benefits remain with the author, whereas the economical benefits remain with the owner, ma'am.
Owner, yes. Yes.
Like you have publisher of a book.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So works like translations. This is the third pointer in originality. Works like translations, abridgments. I'm writing the spelling of abridgments in the chat box. Works like translations, abridgments. Abridgments are basically shortened versions. So, like an abstract of a whole article. So, that is an abridgment of the work. You can say synopsis also. Compilations, translations, abridgments, compilations, etc. etc. are original. Now listen to this line carefully that I'm going to speak. I'll make you guys write later. Works like translations, abridgments, compilations, etc. are original, even though the author has drawn on knowledge common to him and others, or has used already existing material. So this was just what I was trying to explain, that if you are drawing inspiration or using all common knowledge or already existing material and creating something original, then you will have copyright over it. Now, in the first class, I explained to you guys that copyright subsists in originality and not in novelty. So, novelty means newness. We are not talking about a new work, because if we are talking about new works, then that means you have to have originality of idea also. You can't you can't use an already existing idea also. But copyright does not subsist in idea. It only subsists in expression. So novelty is out of question. So the newness of the work is not required, originality is required. So translations, compilations, etc. are drawn from already existing works, but since they are made originally by a person, so they are copyrighted. So you continue writing. Works like translations, abridgments, compilations, etc. are original, even though even though the author even though the author has drawn has drawn on knowledge common to him on knowledge common to him and others or or has used or has used already existing material. I'll repeat. Works like translations, abridgment, compilations, etc. are original, even though the author has drawn on knowledge common to him and others, or has used already existing material. See, when we were reading the definition of literary works, if you remember, when we were reading from the Bare Act, so literary work included a computer program and database. So if you remember that I told you that this is a very computer oriented definition, because they wanted to make sure that people know that computer programs and databases are copyrightable and not patentable. Now, database is basically a compilation of different data. Okay, so it is basically a place where different kinds of data are stored in one place, so that it makes it more convenient and user friendly. Now, if I have combined certain data, but there is no creativity in it, so I have just compiled all that, then that is not copyrighted. I have to be original, because combining random data just like that, there is nothing original in that. That people have been doing, they do it every day. For it to be copyrightable, there has to be a level of creativity. So creativity standards are followed in India. However, in some other countries, they don't require it to be creative. So only a minimal degree of creativity is required. They don't care if the work is creative. They just care if it's original and not copied. But in India, we follow a creativity standard. So we'll do cases which laid down the doctrine of creativity. It's called the modicum of creativity, which we'll just do after this topic. Now, I have a question from you guys. So I'm giving you a situation and you tell me if the person will have copyright in this situation. I think I've discussed this example in the last class. I'm not sure. So I'm going to just use it again. So I am the president of a residential society. I am given the responsibility of, collecting all data of residents who are living here, data of tenants, data of owners of flats, and I have to compile all that data and prepare a directory. That directory has the names, the occupations of residents or tenants, and their flat numbers and their phone numbers. Now, instead of creating a regular telephone directory, I decide that I'm going to create a directory which basically sorts, or which gives you the number of the resident or the tenant on the basis of their occupation. So if I'm trying to look for a doctor, there has been a medical emergency in the society and I want a doctor. So I just say doctor, and the list comes up with all the doctor residents or tenants in the society. So this is something original. Let's assume that nobody ever has done this before. Okay, so hypothetically, this is an original idea that I have come up with, and nobody has done it before, and I execute it also. So when I have executed it, that means I have expressed my idea. So now I have made my work copyrighted. I haven't got it like registered or anything, since copyright is an automatic right. I thought I'll not get it registered, but I have copyright. Assuming that I have copyright. Now you tell me whether this copyright is valid or not, according to, considering that this we're talking about an Indian situation.
It is only valid to moral benefits, not the economical one.
Why so?
Because we haven't registered, right?
No. See, copyright being an automatic right means registration is not required for validity of copyright. That means I'm still the owner and author of copyright, even if I don't get it registered. So I get economic rights without registration also.
But you told that like it is up to the individual how to prove in court of law when you haven't registered as a copyright.
See, if you don't register, you'll be facing difficulties in the court in proving your rights over your work. So it is recommended that you have a documented evidence of your registration or validity of copyright. But even if you don't register it, it does not invalidate your copyright. You still have moral and economic rights over the work. It is only for litigation purpose that it is recommended that you register it. So without registration also, the authorship and ownership remains, and moral and economic both rights remain. So when I say copyright is an automatic right, it means that there is validity of copyright without registration also. Are you clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Clear.
Okay. So in the directory example, is there a valid copyright? Because I have just compiled
Yes,
data.
ma'am, there is.
There is. Okay. Is there anybody who has a different answer? So everybody says that there is copyright. So okay, you guys have understood. I was just testing. So great. Now we write down a doctrine which is called the doctrine of subconscious copying. Doctrine of subconscious copying basically means if I let me think. Okay, so I saw a movie. Okay, I went to US and I saw a Hollywood movie that I really liked, and I'm a filmmaker. Okay, I'm a filmmaker from India and I went to US for a holiday. It was not a work trip. I did not intend to go there and look at a Hollywood film just to, as a filmmaker. I went there with my family. I was having a leisure trip and I saw a film. I liked it. And I was really impressed by the story. Now, subconsciously, that story, since I really liked it, I was very impressed by it. I kept thinking about it. Okay. Now I came back to India. I've resumed my work. I was supposed to start a new project, and I subconsciously started um, thinking of the story of the film that I saw in US. And even if I didn't want to, or I didn't intentionally, consciously intend to copy that story, I ended up using some twists or plot twists from that film. So I was not trying to copy. I did not intentionally do it. But since that story was so embedded in my mind, I subconsciously ended up taking some of those parts. This is called subconscious copying. When you have seen something, okay, or heard something, and you had, basically that means you had access to some work. Okay, so when you have access to some work, you end up sometimes subconsciously using that work in your original work also. So that is unintentional totally. This is called the doctrine of subconscious copying. Now we'll read the doctrine and understand what it says and do some cases on it. But did you guys understand what I'm trying to say? This was in a very general and layman language. So did you understand what subconscious copying implies? If there's anyone who did not, please let me know, Abhi. Okay. So doctrine of subconscious copying brings us to the question whether intention is a relevant factor to determine infringement. So whether there has to be a malified intention on part of the infringer to decide whether he is guilty or not. So should we give intention like consideration? What do you guys think? Should intention be a relevant factor in copyright or should it not be?
Ma'am, it should be.
It should be. So if you are subconsciously copying, you should not be penalized, you mean? You should be left.
Ma'am, if that is what the situation, everyone takes the plea of this. No, ma'am. Subconsciously and without intentionally,
Yes,
we have
ma'am. How
done
can
this.
prove that?
What part of? Yes, ma'am.
Right. Good. Is there anybody else with a different answer? Okay. So I also agree with the second answer. That is because to prove that I have consciously or subconsciously copied somebody's work is impossible to prove in the court. This can also not be done with the help of a like psychiatrist or a psychologist for that matter. So everybody will start taking the plea of I had copied it subconsciously. I just saw the work, so I copied it. So you are not allowed to take this plea, and therefore intention is not a relevant consideration for copyright. So you can write this down. Intention is not relevant to determine copyright infringement. This is a very important and common question that you get in entrances, and if you apply for LLM outside especially, you get this question a lot, whether intention is relevant in copyright, and it is not. Now to like decide whether subconscious copying has happened or not, so we see two factors. First factor, we see whether there is a valid copyright in the first place. So whether the work from which the person is copying, the original work, whether that work has whether that work has valid copyright. If there is no valid copyright, there is no point of infringement. There is no question of infringement only. So first we see whether there is a valid copyright. Now, if it is proven that there is a valid copyright and the work is original and authentic and everything, we see whether the infringer has access to that work. So whether that the infringer has ever seen that work, heard of that work, or anything. So basically, we have to prove access. After access has been proven, it is 99% proven that there has been copying. Subconscious or conscious, we are not going into that right now, but there has been copying. So when there is validity of copyright and access to work, and there has been a substantial similarity in both works, we come to the conclusion that there has been copying. Subconscious or not, again, we are not going into that. Now we'll write 2-3 lines about this and then do cases on this doctrine. Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, let me explain you one issue, ma'am, so that
Yeah.
you let me know whether the thing will be coming into doctrine of subconscious copy or not.
Okay, tell me.
Like if there is a director of a movie and he is from one place and there is one more director from some other place, they both started thinking in the same way. They don't know each other and they did not met anywhere. Like anything is not, just their minds are common. Like the process of thinking is common. They started imagining one movie, and the A person did one movie and the B person started doing the same movie, and he also did. When the producer got to know that these people are copying from each other, he claimed, the A person's producer claimed that B is copying from A. So whether in this process the doctrine of subconscious can be happened or not?
See, here you will have to prove access for proving that there has been infringement. So both the directors, both the story makers, they did not have access to each other's work, right? You said they were just thinking alike, and they were at different corners of the country. For example, one is we can say one is a North Indian filmmaker and one is a South Indian filmmaker. So they both thought on the same lines and they made separate films without talking to each other, without having access to each other's work. It was a total pure coincidence. So there is no copyright infringement. See, that's why I said in the second point that after proving validity of copyright, you have to prove that one person had access of the work of another person. To access is the main point to be proven for subconscious copying. Because if you have access to somebody's work, that means you've seen or heard the work. There are chances that you have subconsciously copied their work or taken inspiration or taken some parts of the work. So if there is no access, then there is no infringement. If they're separately thinking and coincidentally they came up with the same film, that is not infringement of anyone. Even if one film was released before another film, because that will be too much of a coincidence if they even release the film at the same day, right? So it could be possible that one film got released earlier and the other got released later. So if the later released film did not have access to the earlier released film, there is no infringement. It's only when there is access that you can prove infringement. Did you understand?
Yeah, ma'am. For suppose if the first film got lost due to the second person's film which is released.
See, that is not what copyright cares for. So they don't care about losses or profits of anyone. They just care whether there has been copying from one authentic original author by an infringer. So if in this case, when it is all coincidental, if there are losses here, nobody cares.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Ma'am, what do you mean by access? Because in today's online world, everyone has access to everything.
See, yeah, digitally it has become an issue, and so copyright in the digital world is a very recent and upcoming hot topic in the IPR world, because after especially the pandemic, everything has become online. So you anything that you write or something goes on the internet. And anything you make, so piracy of films and TV shows. I didn't even know that you could get all the Netflix TV show on some website. I mean, I did not even know it up till last month. So in the digital world, copyright infringements are happening rampantly, and there is no remedy for it as yet, because everything is growing so fast that the Indian legislature is not able to cope, and there have been no amendments in the Copyright Act. So there are proposals that to protect copyright in the digital environment, more like provision should be there, or a separate rule book or an act should be there, but there's nothing as yet. So we have to just see if anything comes up, because digitally protecting copyright digitally is almost impossible today. It really is. So be it movies, because even if it is not released in the theater, you get a film online, so you automatically get access. So this is a like you can say a benefit that the defendant gets, that he can just say no, I did not see it because it has not been yet released in the theater, for example, but it is already there online. So he can just hide the fact that he saw it online. So this is a very big loophole in copyright law right now. Okay, so write down under the doctrine of subconscious copying. I hope this is clear what I was trying to explain, access and everything. So now you can write. If there are doubts, you can ask me now. Okay, write down. Considering that for this doctrine to apply, two steps are to be proved. First, validity of copyright. In the work. And second, access to such work. Now write down after the second point, in continuation of the first line. Intention does not seem to be relevant for determining infringement. Intention does not seem to be relevant for determining infringement. Now there is a doubt in the chat box by Anu. The paintings made by seeing it from somewhere else, like Google or any other source, will it be termed as original or will it violate copyright laws? See, if I am at home and I'm making a painting looking at some other painting online, so I am not infringing copyright as long as I'm not commercializing it. This is a totally different topic, which I don't want to get into right now. These are basically exceptions to infringement. So this comes at a very later stage, during the end of copyright law. So I will not get into that right now because it will be very confusing. We are just trying to understand what copyright is, what copying is right now. So we'll get into this later and I'll take up this doubt in detail later. But for now, I'm telling you it is not copyright as long as I'm not earning money out of it. So let's just leave that for now. And you also remind me when we're doing exceptions to infringement to bring this topic again. Okay, so
Ma'am,
yeah, tell me.
ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, does the copyright involve the melody of the song?
Melody of the song, as in the background music, you mean?
The background music or the main chorus. Like, for example, I just observed a few days back that one of the old movie, like in Bollywood movie, there was this one song, I don't remember, but it has the same melody of another Hollywood song. It's an English song.
Yeah.
And that was for around 2015 or somewhat around like that. But the Hindi movie, Bollywood movie was old one. So
Okay, so Hollywood has copied a Bollywood song.
I don't know, but the melody is kind of very similar. Like when I heard that.
See, if they have not taken consent of the previously released song, then it is infringement because they're commercializing the film, right? So it is infringement. But many a times firstly, somebody might not notice it. Like you have noticed it, but it's not necessary that the owner of the Bollywood song must have noticed it. And even if they do, they avoid getting into litigations for these petty issues. But this is an infringement if you go into the technicality.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so we write down a case. I write it in the chat box. Called Fred Fisher Incorporation versus Dillingham.
Ma'am, can you say it again?
I have written it in the chat box.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, one more question that, like as you said right now, that if no one noticed, and if I notice, then it will be infringement. Otherwise, it's not there.
No. It is infringement irrespective of anybody notices. I've said this line because to institute a case, the author of the original work has to notice, right? So, and it is also possible that if that Bollywood song is that old, the copyright is also expired, because copyright in the musical work would have been for the lifetime of the music composer and 60 years after that. So if the copyright protection is over, then it is anybody is free to copy the tune, just by the way. So that will also be a
So it will
consideration.
be called original if it is copied.
See, no, it
After
will
the
not be original. It will not be original if it has been copied. See, that could also be a coincident. It could also be coincidental, firstly. If it is not coincidental and it is beyond copyright term, like the copyright term has expired, then it is not original, but is also not infringement because the term is over. And third situation could be that it is an infringement, but it could be subconscious copying. So there is no intention, but there has still been infringement. And the fourth one could be that intentional copying has taken place. So that is also infringement. So there could be four situations, but since we don't know the facts, we can't put it into any of those. But did you get the point that it is infringement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now write down in this Fred case. We'll write this case and then we'll wind up today's class. Once it appears that another has in fact, now these lines I'm quoting from the judgment. Once it appears, and this is a US case, once it appears that another has in fact used the copyright as the source of his production, the source of his production, he has invaded the author's rights. Author's rights here means copyright. So don't get confused between author ownership here. This is just how the judge probably just gave the judgment. Invaded the author's rights. It is no excuse. It is no excuse that in doing so, It is no
Ma'am,
excuse. Yes, tell
ma'am,
me.
can you repeat? Ma'am, can you repeat it once again, ma'am?
Yeah,
It
I'll
is no
repeat it from the
excuse.
beginning. Acha, from
Okay,
here
ma'am.
only. It is no excuse that in doing so, his memory has played him a trick. So this is no excuse that you can give in the court that my memory played me a trick. So in this case, the defendant gave this excuse. So the judge got really pissed and he gave this judgment. It is no excuse that in doing so, his memory has played him a trick. I'll repeat from the beginning once. Once it appears that another has in fact used the copyright as the source of his production, he has invaded the author's rights. It is no excuse that in doing so, his memory has played him a trick. So the judge was supporting the doctrine of subconscious copying, that it is infringement. So your memory played you a trick or you did not intend to copy, we don't care. The fact that you have used somebody else's work in your work and there is substantial similarity, you are guilty of infringement.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, so here does memory means intention?
See, his excuse was that my memory is playing me a trick. So it's not just memory. So he's trying to like convince the jury that I did not intentionally copy the work. It was subconscious or my memory played me a trick. So that the judge negated this claim. He negated that your memory is playing you a trick is no excuse. Now, if you like leave this case and you are separately asking me if memory means subconscious copying, then it could be it's a very vague statement to make because if you have access to some work, so the example that I took, that I'm a film got stuck in my memory, so that's why I subconsciously ended up using that film, right? So I was held guilty if I'm substantially copying the film. So if it is in my memory, that means it is subconscious copying. There's no intention, but I'm still copying, so that is infringement. That's the whole point of subconscious copying, the doctrine of subconscious copying. That's why it was opined in the first place by the courts, because people started taking the defense of the fact that we just saw it somewhere and we did not want to, but we ended up copying. So the courts opined the doctrine of subconscious copying and held that intention is not necessary and you will be held guilty irrespective. Okay, so there are two more cases and then a UK and an Indian case. So this is a US case. After this, we write down two more US cases, then a UK case, and then an Indian case to see what different countries follow as standards of subconscious copying, which we will do in the next class. So if there are no more doubts, I will wind up and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Ma'am,
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah, ask me.
ma'am, does architectural plans also come under? I mean, can anybody take the defense of architectural plan that it is not a copyright? Does it come under
No,
subconscious
yeah.
copy?
So architectural plans are copyrighted. Just by the way, they are works under copyright. And while I was doing the explaining the definition section, wait, I'll tell you where it comes. Do you have a Bear Act handy? Please take it out. So if you see section 2C, it defines an artistic work and it says artistic work includes a work of architecture. So that means architectural works are copyrighted. So that is like any other work. If you copy an architectural work, you infringe someone's copyright. That copyright could also vest in the government, by the way.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Are there more doubts? Today's class was very interactive. Thank you so much for speaking. I hope this remains. And I hope you guys are finding IPR interesting, like copyright interesting. So there are a lot of Netflix shows also who are so I don't know if you guys know, there was this show called Betal that was released in May 2020. So it was supposed to release in 2019, but they were in between of a copyright suit wherein there was a small theatrical director who claimed that the story of Betal was initially written by him and his story's name was Vetal, like starting from V for van. And the Netflix series was Betal, starting from B for Bombay. So he said that he had written the identical same story, and he was supposed to make a play on it. But he met with a director who had contacts in Netflix, and that director, after hearing his story, he passed on the script to a director who was working with Netflix, and he, furthered the infringement, and then the Netflix series came, and then he filed a suit. So the release of Betal was halted for some time because of the copyright infringement. But obviously, he was a small-time director, and that's Netflix we're talking about. Netflix, of course, won the case, and it's still not known whether the script is copied or not. But there was a copyright case. So there are a lot of films and all wherein copyright cases were going on or are going on. A lot of musical remakes. So these days all the Bollywood songs that are coming are 80% are remakes of old Bollywood songs. So where there is permission and consent taken, that is legal. But when the music composers or musicians don't take consent and they still remake the song, it is a blatant infringement. So there are cases in such songs also. In musical compositions, copyright cases are going on. In films, copyright cases are going on. If there is a remake in another language, so translation. So there are a lot of South Indian remakes that happen in Bollywood and vice versa. So there are a lot of cases there also going on, but we don't get to know because as viewers, we get everything on the screen. So there are settlements or there are like wins or losses, but the everything ends up on the screen. But there are a lot of copyright cases going on in the industry, especially in like India. There's a lot of copyright litigation. So if you ever want to get into litigation in IPR, it's a very upcoming area, and you'll get a lot of cases. So if you like are from Bombay especially or Maharashtra, you get involved in a lot of cases because the Bollywood industry is based there. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if the person who composed the song passed away, then what about the copyrights of the person, ma'am?
See, so copyright term is for the lifetime of the author. Now, and the date when the author dies, it begins 60 years from like if the person died in in May 2020, then the 60 years will begin from Jan 2021. So the year following the year in which the person dies, 60 years begin from them. After lifetime plus 60 years, the copyright expires.
Then with whose permission should the other person want? If the person wants to copy it, then with whose permission should they take it?
So there are legal representatives, there are legal heirs. So if there is a like successor, if there is a like heir, legal heir, it could be a like a son or a daughter, it could be a wife, spouse, it could be a legal representative like a lawyer. So big artists and everybody, they all have representatives because they know that they have big copyrights, they have big monetary stakes, so they have people to take care of their works after they die. They have wills and all for that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything
Ma'am,
else?
if the time expires, then we don't need to ask permission or something like that.
No. If the time expires, then the work falls in public domain. So for all IPRs, every work when the term expires, like for patent, it's 20 years. So after 20 years, the work falls in public domain. Anybody can use it.
Yes.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay, then I'll wind up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.